Alright, so now let's talk about Upserts using the Node.js driver. So first we're going to talk about just Upsert. Then we're going to talk about Save, which is actually a wrapper around Upsert, which has slightly different behavior. So let's get started. Alright, so here's our example of using Upsert in MongoDB. So a lot of this is the same. We have our query, and we have our operator, we have our options. Here is the arguments to update. But the difference is, in our options object, we actually set upsert to true. So what this means is that it will try to find a document that has student Frank, assignment homework 1, and update it using this operator. However, if there is no document matching this query, then it'll actually just insert it and then apply this update. Now, right here, operator may not have been the best choice of variable names because there's not actually an operator in here. It's actually replacing the document or inserting a new document. So I could have called it something like update doc or new doc, but I just called it that because I copied it from the other one, which is actually an operator. So let's run that. Alright, successfully upserted one document. So if we go into our shell, alright, so here we see our new document, student Frank, with a grade of 100 and assignment homework 1. So we see that it applied the update. So let's actually get rid of this because I actually have another example that I want to show you. So let's remove Frank and see that he's removed. So now in here, I'm going to comment out this line and use this other operator. So this may seem a little strange, especially in the context of an upsert where a document doesn't yet exist. So there are two things that I want to mention about this. One is that this actually has exactly the same behavior as this line here in the context of this update. And the reason for that is that our query is actually what gets inserted. So this document gets inserted if there's no match, and then the update operator is applied. So in this case, since we just deleted our student Frank, we actually will insert this document, student Frank assignment homework 1, and then apply this operator. So the other thing I want to mention is that we're actually using $set with an object that has two different fields in it. This is just to show that set can be used with more than one field. As in our other example, we just had one. So this will actually set date returned to new date and set grade to be 100 in the same in-place update, which in this case doesn't really matter that much because we're already inserting a document. But this is just to demonstrate the order in which this happens. So let's take a look. Alright, so here we see successfully upserted one document just like before. So let's connect to our shell. And we see exactly the same thing, just with the fields in a different order. So we have student Frank, we have grade of 100, assignment homework 1, and here we actually have date returned. So I actually forgot to put date returned in this document, but you can see that it was actually set using our $set operator. Alright, so now let's talk about save. So this is an example of using save with the Node.js driver. So this one will look more similar to our replacement update because it actually has a similar interface. So just like with our replacement update, we actually do a find one to find the original document. And here, we actually do doc date returned equals new date to add a date to our document. So here's the interesting part. For the save function, we're actually providing the doc. So the question is, what is the save function actually doing? So the high-level answer is that it takes our document and actually replaces it, in this case. But what if the document doesn't exist? So what save is really doing is it's taking the document, it's checking to see if there's an underscore ID field on the document. And if there isn't an underscore ID field, save will actually insert a new document. But if there is an underscore ID field, save will assume that we actually meant to do an upsert. So it'll take the document and then do an upsert automatically with a query on the document's underscore ID field. So this is slightly more convenient to use than the replacement update, but in effect, it's really doing the same thing. So the result of this should be, in any case, whether the document existed or not, or whether it had an underscore ID field or not, that when this call returns, we actually have doc inserted into our database. So let's take a look. Alright, so here we see successfully saved one document. Let's connect to our shell again, do db.grades.find. Let's just get all the assignments with homework 2. Alright, so we see all the documents that have an assignment of homework 2, and down here we actually see we have an assignment with a date returned. So notice that actually the fields weren't reordered on this one, which seems to show that save actually has more in common with our replacement update, since it's really just querying on the underscore ID field, in this case, since we had one, from getting the document straight from MongoDB, and doing an upsert with the entire document. Alright, so now let's go to a quiz. So the question is, assuming all the necessary variables are defined, what is the result of calling this function? Is it to attempt to insert the object and throw an error if underscore ID is not unique? Is it to update and replace the document? Is it to upsert to insert or replace the document? Or is it to do an in-place update?